I even came back with a smile on my face because of the conversation we are going to be having next. Welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Rama Busiku. Of course, I'm always excited to be in your midst to disseminate this information on a daily, weekly basis. We do have Dr. Mohan Keshavamathi. He is a consultant urologist and with whom we are going to be expounding more on the very prevalent problem, prostate cancer. What is it? What is enlarged prostate cancer? And so forth. What is PSA? So many convoluted terms that him only can actually put into light. He's here and willing to actually acquaint us. A very good morning, Dr. Mohan.
Good morning.
So help us understand why, what is prostate cancer? Let's start from there. How rife is this problem in Uganda, East Africa and Africa?
Prostate is a gland situated deep in the pelvis. The secretion of the prostate gland is essential to ensure fertility. Now, this gland is specific to the male, it's not seen in the female, and it is dependent on the male hormone testosterone. As you should know, the Africans have the highest average testosterone as compared to, say, Indians or Caucasians. Higher the volume of testosterone, greater the size of the prostate with age.
You spoke very fast, Dr. Mohan. You're saying Africans have more testosterone
and hence
than any other
race on the planet.
Okay, and that is a problem.
That is not a problem.
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
It's a huge advantage because if you go to the Olympics, you see a 100-meter dash, irrespective of which country they represent, they're African, Afro-American, they may be in Qatar, they have the biggest muscles and they have the best muscles.
All right, go ahead.
But it comes at a cost. God gives nothing without cost.
So if
you have more testosterone, the prostate is going to enlarge quicker with age.
What?
And a small percentage of them, the cells can become mischievous, and when they become mischievous, you get prostate cancer.
I have high testosterone. Should I be scared, Dr. Mohan?
Exactly. So, not all people at risk should get prostate cancer. So, they should do a serum PSA, which is a blood test, prostate specific antigen, once a year on their birthday, age greater than 40. If the PSA is below 4, then there is no question of thinking about prostate cancer. If the PSA is more than 4, then it needs to be investigated further to rule in or rule out prostate cancer. Simply put, on your birthday, get a simple, cheap blood test called serum PSA. Based on the value of the PSA, you know you're at risk or not. So there's nothing to be worried.
All right.
It's a part of being Ugandan, it's a part of being African. It's only about the knowledge that you're at greater risk than your brothers across the planet.
You see a smile on my face, Dr. Mohan Keshavamathi, because someone told me if you have enough sex, you won't get prostate cancer. True or false?
False. What happens is infection of the prostate is called prostatitis. If you expel your semen often, there is a less chance of having prostatitis, or it can be used as a treatment modality for prostatitis. So there's infection of the prostate versus cancer of the prostate.
All right.
In both these conditions, PSA will show an elevation. The important point here is sex with a partner may be helpful in treatment of prostatitis, which is an infection, but definitely not helpful in preventing or treating cancer prostate.
Indeed. So, Dr. Mohan, how rife is this problem within Uganda?
It's possibly 0.5% of the population beyond the age of 40 males are at risk for cancer prostate at some point in their life. Beyond retroviral disease, I would think it's a single biggest factor that may impact quality and quantity of life of Ugandans in the age group between 40 to 65.
I see.
And you should
and that's why our life expectancy is around there, 65.
Absolutely.
I see.
So now what is happening is Ugandans are living longer. They have greater opportunity for diagnostic facility. And hence with greater life, they are going to suffer greater incidence of cancer prostate. See, if in India, it was only the 4th commonest cancer prostate, age greater than 40, whereas it was the commonest cancer in Europe and in America. As India gets developed and Indians live longer, it has become the commonest cancer even in India.
I see.
So one of the corollaries of good quality of life and greater lifespan will be greater risk of cancer prostate.
All right.
Allied to that fact, in Africa, especially in Uganda, there are genetic factors and familial factors. That is, you'll have an uncle or a brother or a cousin who also had cancer prostate.
Or a father.
Or a father puts you in the line of fire.
I see.
So, which is not true in the Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
So, increasing life expectancy, the fact of higher average testosterone in the African male and the fact that there's a familial incidence with unknown genetic factors at play all puts population of male gentlemen age greater than 40 at risk.
Meaning it goes back to the issue of age. I'm making 30 years of age, May 25th this year. That means I'm still safe.
At this point in time, if you have no
People
family,
in my age bracket.
yeah, if you have not got family history, you're absolutely safe.
All right.
But if you have family history, it should be an idea at the back of your mind to get investigated with the serum PSA once a year.
All right. So why enlarged prostate and prostate cancer are so rampant in Uganda?
The reason, as I said, are the same. I just elucidated, Ugandans are living longer than at any other point in life.
I think we could first give them maybe, explain to them the difference between enlarged prostate and prostate cancer.
All men, as they age, as Lord's tax, besides all the tax you pay to the government, will have an enlarged prostate.
Indeed.
Only a male dog and a male human being are blessed with an enlarged prostate. So all that investigations and therapies are done on the dog first, and what works is transformed into human treatment protocols. Right. That's the interesting part.
Very interesting.
The second part is because Ugandans are living longer and because their average testosterone being of African origin is on the higher side, their prostate will tend to enlarge quicker than other nationalities.
All right.
This is age appropriate. And it is very simply treated by a laser surgery. We have it available even in Uganda.
Yes.
But in few cells become mischievous and cancer then supervenes on a previously simple process of age appropriate enlargement. We call it cancer prostate. But the substrate for both the age appropriate enlargement as well as the cancerous enlargement is the higher level of testosterone.
I see. Go ahead, Dr. Mohan.
So the difference between the two is very easy to treat benign enlargement if the patient has difficulty in passing urine or is unable to completely pass urine, as compared to cancer prostate, where we will need to find out with a PSA if it is elevated. We need to do a biopsy, and based on the biopsy, if cancer is proven, then we stage it. Which stage? Is it an early stage? It is confined to the prostate or has gone beyond? In Uganda, because the diagnosis is generally late, it would have gone beyond. Depending on the stage of the cancer prostate, then we provide an appropriate treatment to enhance both quality and quantity of life.
Do you ever recommend a battery of tests to determine whether or not someone has enlarged prostate?
You will basically need a uroflowmetry, that is speed of urination. You will need an ultrasound to see the texture and the size of the prostate and the amount of urine in the bladder after passing urine, and you need a serum PSA allied to a single digital rectal examination of the prostate by the clinician. These four simple tests, inexpensive clinical evaluation.
How much? How much does it go for?
In Uganda, it should cost less than $50. Once it is done, then you know it's a simple age appropriate enlargement or a possibility of cancer needs to be considered. And then you go further depending on the symptoms of the patient and if it is cancer based on the biopsy report.
Go ahead. What are the latest methods used to treat enlarged prostate?
The latest methods, as I said, are for simple age-related enlargement of the prostate, you do endoscopy. And in endoscopy, you use the laser to widen the passage encroached by the enlarged prostate.
You don't say.
So the gentleman can pass urine normally again and pass completely at one go. It's a half an hour procedure. The patient stays in the hospital a day. There is no cut on the body and there is no blood loss. So, and these treatments are available in Uganda, in Kampala at this point in time.
And what's the final solution for handling prostate cancer?
For handling prostate cancer, once we diagnose it and we stage it, as I said, if it is early cancer, then surgery or radiotherapy are the two choices with the intention to cure. With the intention to control, as I said, testosterone is the culprit. You can use medication to block testosterone. So there are two wide arms, intention to cure and intention to control. Intention to cure, surgery or radiotherapy. In surgery, we can do it open surgery or laparoscopy or robotic surgery, depending on what the patient individually chooses to get done.
Individually chooses, or which method you recommend to them as being more, safer? Because I've had some doctors say, well, the radiotherapy, it can actually lead to erectile dysfunction. Is it right?
Radiotherapy possibly gives a lot of side effects, especially in Africans and Indians, whereas surgery is that way easy on the side effects. So potency, continence, and the ability for cancer cure are the three variables. Surgery scores higher in Indians and Africans, whereas radiotherapy is better off in Caucasians.
And I'm sure you set up a camp in this effect to ensure that people flock your premises to ensure that they get checked and so forth to get treatment for prostate cancer.
I've been coming here for over 13 years.
All right.
East Africa and Uganda, second home for me.
Amazing.
So at Norwich Hospital in Kampala, we actually do a camp for 3 to 4 days. Once in 6 weeks. Once in 6 weeks. I come to Uganda about 7-8 times. It's my, what can I say, my time.
And we love you too, Dr. Mohan.
Away from a busy practice in India.
Indeed.
And we have all these facilities which I mentioned to diagnose both simple enlargement as well as cancerous enlargement of the prostate.
Indeed.
And then I can advise based on the reports what's the appropriate way forward.
So between now and when should Ugandans be coming to Norwich Hospital to get tested and diagnosed?
I'm here till Friday.
Yes.
So any time prior to that, it will be welcome, and I should be back again in the middle of May.
Indeed. So they just make their way to Norwich Hospital. Anywhere in Norwich Hospital, they'll be diagnosed free of charge, or the $50.
No, at this point in time, the consultation is the only thing they pay for. The rest is gratis.
How much is the consultation?
The consultation in Ugandan terms should be about $10.
You know very well that I'm coming to visit you.
You're more than welcome.
But of course, let's talk about the other issue that is so prevalent among our youth in this country, but then it is so silent: erectile dysfunction. How rife is this situation in our country?
1 in 4 of young men between the ages of 20 and 45 will be unhappy in bed, or their partner is unhappy in bed, or both of them are unhappy in bed. It's a common problem because of where I come from, and in here it's a social stigma. You don't want to discuss it in public.
Okay.
The strongest of men would discuss it with themselves behind closed bathroom doors. The issue here is the expectation of the male for performing on demand is something that doesn't happen all the time. Stress of modern life, allied to increasing incidence of diabetes and hypertension, is causing greater erectile dysfunction in the younger population.
So meaning even the COVID-19 pandemic has done more harm than good to actually exacerbate the problem. Erectile dysfunction, I'm too stressed, no money is coming in.
And you know what tomorrow brings. So you are stressed even more.
You're about to get laid off, and then your woman is telling you, I want to have some good time with you. There's no way you're going to make it happen.
When the mind doesn't will, the body doesn't perform.
Go ahead.
And so the important point is 90% of the time, a simple set of investigations and appropriate counseling along with short-term medications resolves erectile dysfunction in a majority of young men who do come with this problem. Only in about 10% you will find a problem, especially in diabetics, that the blood flow to the male organ isn't as appropriate as required. I'll just explain that. At the baseline, if you think X is a blood flow, on demand, if you want to have contact with your partner, the erection should require 3 to 5 times increased flow. If it doesn't happen, then it becomes a problem. There's one more very interesting fact. The heart and the penis are the only 2 organs in the human body that receive blood both in lub and dub, diastole and systole. All other organs receive in systole, and oxygenated blood is taken back. That's the reason for that is both can't stop.
That's why there is increased heart rate during the sexual activity.
The heart has to perform more to provide for the greater quality of erection. That's why the United Nations makes the ability, that is erectile function, as an important male quality of health indicator. So it's not a joke. If you don't perform well at bed, 1 in 3 of such men have a problem in the heart.
Meaning if you exercise more and improve your heart complications,
it will improve your quality of bedtime, time in the bed.
I see.
On the other hand, if you're not getting adequate energy and performance in the bed, it is important to look at the heart. Is it working well?
Indeed.
As I said, they're very similar organs.
Yes.
The third point is that both of them are supplied by blood vessels which are 3 millimeter in diameter. So they're very similar. The heart is the central airport, and the male organ is 5 bus stops away. So whatever affects the heart will affect the penis. So, and vice versa. So to improve quality of sexual life with medication, we should be very sure, because the medication which we use will also affect the heart.
Yes.
So the first step is to find out, is the heart okay? If the heart is okay, 90% of the time, medication and counseling will work. In the other 10%, we may need a surgical intervention, what we call as a prosthesis after suitable evaluation. A variety of prostheses are available. There are malleable prostheses, there are inflatable prostheses, and they can be tailored to the individual's need and then restore them to full sexual vigor and health. So 90% counseling and medication, 10% after further investigations, a surgical solution. But you can provide a solution for every person's erectile dysfunction in an individualized
based
fashion.
on their lifestyle, because this individual could be a heavy drinker.
Correct.
Kidney, kidneys
Smoker.
affected.
Smoker should stop.
Okay. So meaning if you have affected kidneys, you are a heavy drinker and so forth, you might be having erectile
Absolutely.
dysfunction.
So it's very important to look at keeping the kidneys healthy to be good in bed. That's another issue in Uganda, where if truly kidney failure happens, we don't have adequate facilities as yet. I'm waiting
for transplants and so forth.
I'm waiting for the Honorable Excellency Dr. Jain to get the law passed in May or June. COVID has delayed it, and God willing, we should be amongst the first East African countries beyond Kenya to perform successful transplants. Uganda should be the beacon for Rwanda, Burundi, Congo. We should be the beacon for doing kidney transplants.
That's amazing. And you said you're talking to the Honorable General Thacheng, Minister of Health?
Yes.
All right.
And that should get passed in the parliament in a few months.
Indeed.
I personally feel beyond Kenya, Uganda should be the beacon for providing advanced care.
We should.
Everything is available here. The doctors are well trained. It's an English-speaking population.
Indeed.
The people are well focused.
Very smart.
All it needs is all these parts to be put together logistically by the government, a law to be created so that no unethical practices are done, and then you can see there is no need for Ugandans to travel abroad. It's
Indeed.
expensive.
It is very expensive.
It is difficult. It is emotionally demeaning. But then, having no choice to protect a loved one, they will travel to a country like mine. But I would look forward in the next 2 to 3 years that any procedure that I can do back home in India, in Bangalore, in a large corporate hospital, should be possible at Norwich and Kampala.
Dr. Mohan Keshavamarthi is very, very intelligent, and he's a senior consultant urologist from Norwich Hospital. My people are very smart, but then they are prone to disinformation. There are so many supplements on the market. You have ginseng, you have this and that, wellness woman, wellness man. And according to some of the doctors I was talking to, they were saying some of these supplements can actually exacerbate erectile dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Is it true?
It is true. Not all supplements are bad. Like all not. The way to go forward is you should have a medical opinion or somebody knowledgeable to support you in the use of supplements. Generally, supplements by themselves are not bad, but the preservatives like zinc or arsenic, which are put into the supplements to increase shelf life, they can cause kidney damage or direct erectile dysfunction. So the supplements have to be, like all things in life, have to be rationed. They have to be rational, and it has to be with a knowledgeable opinion that you use supplements. So supplements to enhance quality of sexual health or to overcome sexual health problems without an appropriate advice from a doctor wouldn't be a wise thing to do.
Go ahead.
So the issue of supplements only comes up because they want to avoid a formal opinion or they're scared to seek a formal opinion. But once you seek a formal opinion, you can, as I said, 90% of the time, the solution is in just changing the lifestyle, putting in counseling measures and simple medication. That should solve the problem.
Because I'm looking at a situation where Uganda has the second youngest youthful population
Correct.
in the whole of Africa, in the whole
Correct.
world. But then having the second most youthful population also means, according to an article by the BBC, we are the fittest country in the whole world. You have the fittest young people in the whole world. So meaning they spend too much time working out either in the confines of their basements or in some gym somewhere. But then a supplement will come in here and there at some point.
Okay.
And that's why we are talking about erectile dysfunction. So what would you recommend? Supplements that do not have zinc in them,
do not have preservatives.
because the practice is continuing.
Number one. Number two, it is always useful once in a while to take an advice on what supplements suit you individually.
Right.
And if there is erectile dysfunction, more supplements or combination of supplements is not going to solve it. It is better to take a considered clinical opinion from a urologist and then focus back on what you're doing right.
All right, why should Uganda and Norwich Hospital be treated as a fast point center for these urological procedures instead of moving to India and so forth?
The reasons are very clear. Norwich has, over the decade, along with me and my team, created a NIDUS, a logistical facility where everything best in the world has come to Uganda.
Indeed.
We are looking forward for more governmental support in terms of allowing legislation to perform kidney transplants also here. When you travel abroad, you travel to a new location, you travel with a loved one, it's expensive, the treatment which you're offered may not be the treatment that you need or deserve, and then the cost and the outcome and the follow-up that happens, Muhammad is somewhere, the mountain is somewhere else. It's always better for the mountain to move to Muhammad than Muhammad to move to the mountain.
Indeed.
So it is far better the skill, equipment, technology, thought processes come to Uganda and we treat the Ugandan patient at Norwich, and we could also train local Ugandan surgeons interested in performing it. So that will also be a skill transfer. If the patient goes off to India or some other similar location, that patient benefits. But Ugandan population at large doesn't benefit. So creating a healthy hospital-based infrastructure in Kampala and then in secondary cities of Uganda and getting local Ugandan surgeons to participate along in such programs will be self-sufficient. And that's what would be a legacy I would look forward in the next 5 years of my career.
Very insightful conversation I'm having with Dr. Mohan Keshavamathi. He's a senior consultant urologist from Norwich Hospital. We are going to take a very short break and return with more of this conversation. If you're a young man, function amongst our youth, as you go to the gym and use all those supplements, they're actually causing a lot of harm to your body, erectile dysfunction. But then if you do away with those ones that have zinc and other additives, you're good to go, absolutely. That's according to Dr. Mohan. And he also tells us Uganda could be one of the first countries within East Africa to start kidney transplants if General Thacheng puts a signature on that document around May. We shall be having that happen. But what will it take to have that expedited? As you have Dr. Mohan, a very good morning once again. What will it take to expedite that whole process? You said you're talking to General Thacheng. Uganda might at some point start kidney transplants. What will it take to expedite that whole process, to make it a success?
We need a law to find out who can donate to whom and who can receive the kidney. Like
like a database.
Yes. Or like all large countries, the parliament needs to pass a law saying, laying down the rules of what we call as the Transplantation Act. And once the Transplantation Act is in place, then living related transplantation and deceased donor or cadaver transplantations can start. Now, for this to happen in a regulated fashion, a large institution, a nodal hospital like Mulago should take the lead, and private hospitals like Norwich can follow suit. An exchange of thoughts, ideas, equipment, and skills can help the cost of the transplant to be brought down, a large number of transplants to be done on a regular basis, and the rules covering the ethics of transplant. Because when you do a kidney transplant, you're taking a healthy person who otherwise would never have come to the hospital to donate a kidney for a loved one, putting himself or herself at risk. So when a hospital receives a healthy person and who will undergo a major procedure to donate a kidney, it's very important the ethics around this are clearly defined by the government, as is done in all major countries. It will be a first in East Africa. Beyond Kenya, this will also set the ground rules. How can we provide high quality surgical procedures as kidney transplant, which are surgically safe, benefits the patient in terms of outcomes, is ethically correct, and financially viable.
Do we have the skilled labor, Dr. Mohan?
We are on our way, but by June, July, once the government, somewhere between May and July, passes this act, which has gotten delayed by COVID, as Dr. Jane Acheng has put a lot of energy into getting this passed, we should be amongst the first countries in East Africa, if not the whole of Africa, to have a viable program over the next 3 years.
That will be really, really perfect, and I'm so happy that it's going to be happening, because I'm a patriot, but then I'm also a realist. Here in Uganda, we do know that there is some equipment in some hospitals just lying there idle, simply because there is no expert to operate the same machinery. So we could expedite this whole process. We have the beautiful machines coming in, but no people skilled enough to operate the same. Aren't you worried that at some point we might stagnate and end up in that position?
Absolutely relevant point. That's a very, very important point. It is a lack of marrying the skill
Indeed.
to the equipment. That is the biggest bane in Africa, not just in Uganda.
Yes.
What we should do, and that's exactly what I wanted to emphasize.
Indeed.
If you start doing the procedures here and co-opt local Ugandan surgeons, nurses, technicians, anesthetists,
Indeed.
then the skill automatically improves. So it's very important to start a program which is on par with the rest of the world, but involving the local skill, so that over 2 to 3 years you'll have more than one program capable of performing. And as you rightly said, marry local skill to this beautiful equipment that has come in, and see they are not idle, they work round the clock, and the outcomes are safe. So it is governmental will and rules, as well as considered fair collaboration with private operators, private hospitals, that will allow this to happen. So you need, like all other things in Africa, good measures of luck, God's grace, but also energy put into this process.
And visualization.
Absolutely.
Of course, Dr. Mohan, whenever I'm having a conversation with someone and it's technological, like you, Novik Hospital, if you want to start some campaign online, I'll ask a question like, aren't you worried that this online portal might be susceptible to online attacks? So meaning if you're talking about transplants, kidney transplants and so forth, aren't you worried about situations like illegal organ transplanting or harvesting?
Absolutely.
Illegal organ harvesting.
That's the single biggest worry. And that's why I was highlighting that the ethics, the goalpost for the ethics has to be defined by the transplantation law that has to be passed by the parliament. And the government and Mulago should oversee all these aspects when transplant starts in this country. Surgically, a combination of skills from abroad, participation of the local surgeons over the next few years will create more than one good, well-rounded surgical transplant teams. But the ethics of it has to be clearly defined by law.
Have you been grappling with this problem within India, and how bad has it been? Illegal organ harvesting.
It has been a huge problem. Our law happened in 1994. A revision happened in 2002. India is a large country, and selling kidneys on criminal or uncivil grounds were common. The government has stamped it out by a rigorous bill, which makes it criminal to take a kidney unethically from an unwilling gentleman, irrespective of the basis for it. And a similar law, which is much more applicable to the African environment, has been created to be passed by the Ugandan government. So you're absolutely right. It is a problem for all countries. It needs to be regulated strictly, and the government should take the initiative to set the legal framework on which donation of the organ and receiving the organ is allowed. And then we need to create the surgical and logistical ability across Uganda, starting in Kampala, between the government setup and the private setup, to do transplant in a safe way. The last and equally important would be to make the drugs to prevent rejection, immunosuppression, affordable and available. Because once you do the transplant, they are on the set of drugs for a lifetime to keep the kidney being rejected. I think the government is working on all these fronts. COVID has delayed it, but I would think we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Sometime later this year, all of this should fall into place. This has been a thought process for me for 5 years now, ever since I've come here, thinking of doing transplants. But it should all fall together, and we should be seeing a successful kidney transplant program.
Indeed, Dr. Mohan, but do you think a rigorous legal framework would go a long way in alleviating this problem without implementation of the same? Because that is the practice in African countries, especially Uganda. We put up a very, very good legal framework on paper, which will never be implemented. How bad would that be?
That's a problem even in India. The government,
also India.
The government has good intentions, but in reality, the ordinary person who needs the help doesn't receive it.
Indeed.
That point is well taken.
Indeed.
But as I said, a combination...
Do we need enforcement teams on the ground?
Absolutely.
Go
you
ahead.
will need governmental vision, governmental direction, but private energy to invest in the program, and to cost it effectively, that the last person who needs it gets it done, and then to look at organizations to support this program from outside of the government and the private hospital network. There are many support kidney groups here. They can all work together. The idea is the patient over the next 5 years who needs a transplant need not travel abroad. If we reach even halfway there, it will be a radical change, not just for Uganda, but for all of East Africa. I feel Uganda thrives, East Africa thrives.
All right. All right, we've talked about enlarged prostate, we've talked about prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, we've talked about this issue of kidney transplants, but we haven't talked about circumcision and the myths and misconceptions that are riddled around the whole practice. Especially in Uganda here, I'm from the East, circumcision is culturally based. What do you make of circumcision? You have so many young people who say it can do away with erectile dysfunction. Is it true?
Believe it or not, even today, a debate on circumcision, ritual circumcision or circumcision in the first few weeks of life induces a lot of diverse and contrary opinions. Even in a urological scientific forum, forget in a community-based talk. So there are people pro and con vociferously saying, yes, we have to, and there are paying no.
What does science say?
I'll break it into parts. There is no question that circumcision helps penile hygiene. In countries where retroviral infection is common, it's one of the weapons that has been used by the government and by the doctors doing mass circumcisions to prevent transmission of the disease, because it obviously, penile hygiene will translate into greater cleanliness in performing the act. The second and equally important thing that bothers people. I come from a country in which a large majority of the population do not get ritually circumcised. The problem there is, if the foreskin is removed, will it take away the sexual pleasure? And that's something you wouldn't want to vocalize in public, but as a community, as an individual, you're bothered. The truth is, it makes no difference to your sexuality or your enjoyment in terms of having intercourse. The issue there then depends on three things. The community belief into which you're born into, the need for penile hygiene, and then the last and the most important, the partner with whom you are eventually going to have a conjugal life. So in all three perspectives, circumcision is not a negative. The point there is, how do you get it done? Do you get it in a hygienically surgical operation theater, or you get it done in a community traditional service? The way I see it, both should continue. And the community traditional service should undergo a period of training specifically to do this procedure, because we in India or in Uganda, we don't have the ability for the doctors to go into smaller clinics and perform on demand volumetric circumcision.
I hear you.
Till such time happens, I think providing a little bit of training to the traditional circumcising gentlemen and disseminating more knowledge about being circumcision, aiding penile hygiene, and removing the misconceptions and the mythical stories from the past will help.
Very insightful conversation I've been having with Dr. Mohan Keshavamurthy. Dr. Mohan Keshavamurthy is a senior consultant radiologist with Novik Hospital. Please give us your final parting shots before we let you go. To the viewer who's watching right there, you have activities that are slated this week. Yes. When can they get you?
The points are that if you are age greater than 40, get a serum PSA done once a year. It'll help you to rule out cancer prostate, and in case the PSA is elevated, appropriate investigations to treat you. The second point is, look after your kidneys, drink plenty of water, don't take unwanted adulterated supplements, especially in hot weather. Keep yourself hydrated. And last and most important, if you're not performing well in bed, there's a lot of hope out there. Get appropriate advice and get your family life going. Thank you.
All right, very, very great conversation I've been having with Dr. Mohan Keshavamurthy, a senior consultant urologist with Novik Hospital. Please, if you have any problems aligned to what we've been talking about right here on the show, Morning at NTV, rush to Novik Hospital, you'll get some help. To all the kings, queens, boys and girls who are actually celebrating their birthdays on this particular Monday, the 29th of March 2021,